Hey y'all, welcome to today's crafts. Whether you're a regular or first time viewer, thank you for stopping in. I have a list of DIYs on my channel, so come on over and check them out. For this first DIY, I'm using a paper mache tree cone that I got from Hobby Lobby quite a few years back. The tag reads $5.99 and I most likely got it for 50% off. The first thing I want to do is slap a coat of paint over the entire cone, and I'm using Waverly's chalk paint in celery. And as you can see, one coat covers it just fine. I picked up 7 boxwood picks from Walmart and they were 98 cents each. And I just went through and pulled each stem off of every pick. And I mean all 7 of them. Starting at the top, I hot glued the first one to the cone with the stem pointing toward the bottom. From there I glued each one down, working my way from the top to the bottom. I kind of staggered them, and with any leftovers I went back through filling in any gaps. When I got to the last row, I just glued them down parallel with the bottom. Now my cone is 17 inches high, so if you do one bigger than that, you will definitely need more stems. These berry stems I got from the Dollar Tree. This time of year you can get them just about anywhere. Hobby Lobby, Walmart, Michael's, wherever. And I just clipped a few of them off and hot glued them on, just kind of spacing them out a little bit. Now you can skip this part, but I took some eucalyptus pieces that I had from a garland and I just added some in there, just a few, just to give it a little more texture. I didn't get it on camera, but I added a small strand of fairy lights. The final thing I did was I took some Mod Podge and matte and I brushed some tips and I used my fingers to just sprinkle the glitter. If you don't like glitter, you can skip this step, but I like a little shimmer, and I'm calling this finished. So what do you think? I got the same look for just under $15. For this tree scarf, I picked up 3 skeins of chunky yarn from Walmart. I don't knit, but finger knitting is really easy. Don't shy away from it. It can save you a good bit of money. So the first thing you want to do is make a slip knot. You do this by wrapping the yarn around your fingers, then pull through the loop. Next is to make a foundation chain. You do this by reaching through the loop and grabbing the string and pulling through the loop to form another loop. And you continue until the chain's length is approximately the width desired for the scarf. I figured about 20 inches would be close enough. Once you get to the last loop, you hold on to it while you begin to work backwards by pulling a loop up through the next chain, and you continue to pull loops through each chain till you get to the end. And you want to make sure that your loops are big enough that you can reach through them and pull through the next loop. And y'all, the part I'm pulling through is what I'm going to call humps. You can see here, it's like humps, and that is what you're pulling it through. When you get to the end of the row, you will need to pull up another loop in that same loop that's on the end and begin to work back down that row. Y'all, this comes together really fast because it's such big yarn. I suggest putting on a movie and just enjoy it. Now when you get to the end of your skein and you need to start a new one, you want to leave enough of a tail that you can make a knot. And just knot it together and leave the tails hanging when you go back to pulling the loops again. We'll go back and deal with the tails once we're done knitting the scarf. Y'all hang with me, we're almost there. Now we're going to finish it off. And what you do is you take the second to the last loop, pull it through the last loop, and then you're going to take the yarn, pull it through the next loop, and then you put that loop through the last loop. Then you grab the next loop, pull a loop through it, and then pull it back through the last loop again. And you do this all the way down the last row. To tie it off, I just take my tail, feed it through the loop, and pull it tight into a knot. For some reason I didn't get it on camera, but to take care of those tails, just weave it in and out through the loops on the back. So what do y'all think? $100 versus $22. Now for the gnome sign, I used a 1x5 and it measures 32.5 inches long. The nose and the boots I freehanded on a scrap piece of wood and cut them out on a bandsaw. If y'all would like to see me doing anything on the bandsaw, let me know in the comments. I placed the boots and the nose on the board to give me a guideline. I marked how far down I wanted my beard to go. Then drawing around the nose, I drew out the bottom of the cap. If you don't have the means to cut these wood pieces out, just draw them on. I came down about midpoint from the bottom of the cap to the mark for the bottom of the beard and placed a mark on each side. Then I go from the bottom point up to the side point, and the board is going to make your line squiggly, and that's exactly how you want it because you don't want a perfect line. Then I went back to my point and started drawing to the next point on the opposite side. I started about a quarter of a ways from the bottom of the cap and started working my way up at an angle, just sketching out the hat. Once I got the tip of the hat rounded off, then I came back down and added a mark so I would have a guideline. And then I just started from there, sketching all the way back up to the tip of the hat. Moving on to the paint, I used all apple barrel paint. I used warm buff for the nose. I covered the front and the sides. I painted the boots black, front and sides. I mixed the white with a drop of black to get the gray that I wanted, and from there I just painted the body. I used a smaller brush to go around the outline of the beard. While that was drying, I went back to my cap and drew the stripes. To get the shade of red I wanted, I mixed a little bit of black in with the red, and I went in and painted all of the wide stripes. And I also went back in and added a second coat. I painted the beard white, and I used the white to also clean up the edges. I used a smaller brush to paint the thin stripes of the cap, and then I also painted the background white. And don't worry if you mess up, you can always go back with a small brush and do any touch-ups. Once it was dry, I attached the nose and the boots using clear Gorilla Glue. I did clamp them off camera and let them dry. And that's it for this guy. I really loved how he turned out. Y'all, $59.99, and that cost me less than $10 to make. This is a piece of scrap that I had laying around, and I'm going to give it a coat of Waverly's chalk paint and crimson. And I do coat all sides. I drilled a hole smaller than the dowel that I'm going to use. As you can see, it doesn't fit. Then I went back in with a drill that's closer to the size of my dowel, and it fits snug as a bug in a rug. I used miter shears to cut down the center about an inch deep. Then I made a cut from the side, and it left me with this flat surface. I got this Merry Christmas wood cutout from Hobby Lobby for $2 a couple years back, and I just cut the string off. I added clear Gorilla Glue and a little bit of hot glue to the flat part of the dowel and stuck it to the back of the sign. I took it outside and spray painted it black, and once it was dry, I brought it in and I stuck it down in the hole. Took a strip of ribbon and I hot glued it down. And then I just cut off any excess. For the other two sides, I glued down my ribbon, and then once I got to the top, I started forming my loops. For the second loop, I twisted the ribbon, wrapped it around the dowel, and formed my second loop. I did the same thing for the other two, and then I hot glued them down. For the tails, I cut 2 strips of ribbon. I pinched the ends and then I hot glued them underneath the bow. Then I dovetailed the ends, and it is finished. What do you think? Mine cost me under $5 to make. For this last DIY, I used some wood tags from the Dollar General, and they were $1 a pack. I will be using 3 out of the pack. I painted 1 red, 1 black, and 1 white. I painted 5 of the beads white. I stained 10 beads with Minwax's Red Mahogany. I cut stencils out on my Cricut that reads, "Merry, Believe, and Jolly." Then I painted over the stencils. I used white letters on black, red on white, and white on red. I removed the stencils while they were still a little wet. If you don't have a vinyl cutter, don't worry. You can buy store-bought stencils. You can use paint markers or paint pens, rub-on transfers. There's plenty of other things you can do. The final step in all of this is to get some jute string, put it through the holes of your tags, tie a knot, add 5 beads to each of them, tie another knot on the end, and clip off the excess. And that's it, folks. Here's how they compare. Another project under $5. I hope you enjoy these DIYs, and thanks again for stopping in. Bye, y'all.